Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a brand new season of Formula G. We are in season 2, and yeah, we got 10 new maps. Some are repetitive from last season, but they're new locations, even if the country is the same. And yeah, 2 new teams. With Orient Motorsport and Cape Motorsport joining the field. So we got even more drivers competing in this one. I am joined by none other than the organizer himself, Ben. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Zotomo. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking about Formula G, and yeah, excited to see how this new season pans out.
Yeah, very exciting. So week 1 saw us in Argentina, which is, of course, everybody's favorite country. Not really, depending on the locations, as we'll take a look at those right now. Yeah, first location was quintessential Argentina, middle of nowhere, straight road, dry. I believe it was Highway 3 in the southern part of the country.
Yeah, so if you think of Argentina and you think of probably the worst round that you could get, you would have this location. We did start on a bit of a junction with a very small road coming off to the east, I think it was. But you had to travel a fair distance to find anything of use. But thankfully, there wasn't many other junctions on this road in this sort of region of Argentina. So once you sort of found the general region between Comodoro, Rivadavia, and Rio Gallegos, and a few other cities in between, once you knew sort of roughly where we were, it shouldn't have been too difficult to find the junction because there wasn't many junctions which stuck out on the map. So it was definitely 5Kable, but would have taken a bit of perseverance and effort to get there.
Yeah, just keep clicking. That's pretty much what you have to do in Argentina. Round 2 saw us jump to the complete opposite end of the country, way up north. Let's see, near the junction of the 81 and 95, there was a town name you were able to find, which helped pinpointing here.
Yeah, so quite a different landscape to what we saw previously. There was a lot more greenery. And like you say, you could find the town name, which I think was Estanislao del Campo. And yeah, once you sort of know roughly where to look in Argentina, up in the northern bit, you were going to do all right, even if you didn't find the exact town. And I think if you found like that we were near the 81, then yeah, it's not going to be impossible to find it, but definitely a bit trickier than some other locations which we could have had.
Yeah, those highways definitely are a bit of a lifesaver in Argentina. You can search for them
Definitely,
and then
yep.
just follow them along, looking for little town names, and hopefully you find it before time runs out. Round 3 was, despite round 1, probably the killer round. If you didn't go south, you had, 5 minutes of nothing, which is what quite a few of us did. Actually, let me take a look exactly how many people did that. I was one of them, saw nothing. Let's see, round 3, maybe 8 or 9 people all did the same thing. 10, maybe about half the field actually looks like. Some of these people who are playing aren't actually playing in the competition, so the numbers don't quite match up exactly. But yeah, about half the field went north, saw nothing, scored. Because you can kind of guess the region. It's up against the Andes, that kind of thing. But besides that, you saw nothing. However, if you went south, Ben.
Yeah, if you went south, you travelled through a few different towns, and was definitely more information than if you went north.
Yep.
And you eventually hit the city of San Juan, which once you're in the town centre, you're going to be able to find the city name fairly easily. And San Juan comes up at quite a low zoom level. So once you're sort of looking in that region where it's a bit mountainous, a bit dry, then yeah, San Juan is going to come up, and there's sort of one main road leading north out of San Juan, which we must have been on.
Very nice. Round 4 saw us head further south on the same highway, technically, at least by number-wise, the 40. And the big clue here was a lot of signs had De Los Andes written on them. So that was nice to just travel along the mountains looking for some kind of village name with that. But the bit of a trick, you did have to go back to the actual starting location, which didn't have the same town name on the map, at least. So you did have to do a little bit of road searching here.
Yeah, so I really liked this round. The landscape with the sort of greenish mountains and then even sort of a bit of wooden architecture. It always makes me think of that region of Argentina and Chile, not far from San Carlos de Bariloche. And if it's on the Chilean side, then it's sort of near Puerto Montt. I sort of associate this architecture and landscape with this region of Argentina and Chile. So for me, it was always going to be around that region. And like you say, once you found the larger town names, which weren't impossible to find, or even sort of reference to Los Andes, it was just a case of them pinpointing the starting location, which was a bit tricky because we weren't actually in the larger towns. We were sort of one town along. Mm-hmm. But if you realise that, then it's a fairly smallish town to pinpoint with a nice grid system. So yeah, that's round 4, which wasn't too difficult, I didn't think.
I think most of the drivers got over 4.9, or not, if not that, 4.8. So a pretty nice round. And then round 5, very interesting round, saw us right on the Uruguay River, right on the border with Uruguay, of course, in a town actually having the name Del Uruguay. So that helped, just searching along the river for that. It might have thrown some people off for a bit, but again, overall, a pretty straightforward round to wrap us up here.
Yeah, definitely. Once you found the reference to Uruguay, I think the town Concepcion del Uruguay comes up at quite a nice zoom level, so you didn't have to zoom in too far. And again, once you found the street names, it's just a case of pinpointing. Fortunately, we were on one of the main roads going east-west through the town. So once you found the side road we were on, it wasn't too difficult after that point.
Very nice. Well, let's see how the drivers all did after week 1. For this one, Moist Flubber, Boxa, and Laban Greb take the podium in that order, respectively. Moist Flubber, the only one picking up a perfect score with that, 47 meters off total. Berry Fishy Bear or Bucka rounding out that top 5 for them. A nice double finish there for Chariot. Towards the other end of things, Simi didn't actually put up a score on this one. A bit of a miss for him. Shumi and Wickholm and Wakelock rounding out that bottom. Rounding out that bottom 5 or so. With that, but I think you can really see on this one, it's kind of obvious who went north on round 3, because it almost matches perfectly. And Wickholm, Wakelock, me, Tall. Where is Tall and Paula? Yeah, Tall and Paula went the wrong way as well. Yep. Slovak Goalie was down there with us. Max. So literally that whole right side of the chart were all people who went the wrong direction on one round, and that was enough to drop 4,000 points, which put us all in that 20,000 point area rather than the 24,000 point area for that. But already in week 1, very strong competition here, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. With such a competitive field, even sort of dropping a few thousand points on one round may put you out of the running for points. Especially now, like you say, this season we've got another 4 competitors aiming to get those points. So, like on round 3, if you did travel the wrong way, that may have been maybe a killer for your entire seed. But then the good thing with this was you are able to make up for it the following week because you get a slightly nicer time in the sprint race. So yeah, it is going to be tough, and if you do mess up one round, that may be this race over, but you have still got another race this week to catch up and get points, and you'll be benefited the following week by getting a nicer seed or nicer time limit in the sprint race.
Yeah, indeed.
Another thing which I found interesting this week was obviously Moist Flubber, Boxer, and Laban Greb all new to Formula G and taking the 3 podium positions in the feature race. Maybe that's something we can read into, maybe it's not. But definitely something to keep an eye on, how well the newcomers do compared to the racers who have carried on from last season.
Definitely. Well, definitely worth keeping an eye on. Bear Fishy Bear, Jack, and Closed. Closed being our champion from last season. Only 3 drivers in that top 7 from last season.
Mm.
Heading over to our sprint race in Buenos Aires, we had 5 very interesting, pretty well spread out locations throughout the city. Round 1, we started off right near a major train station and in a roundabout, so lots of nice pinpointing help here.
Yeah, so South American cities are always going to be quite tough to find your location and pinpoint because a lot of them aren't that structured compared to European or American cities and are just a bit of a mess in general. But like you say, we did start quite close to the train station here and also underneath a fairly main road with a roundabout underneath. So it was definitely enough to find the starting location here if you had enough. Well, we all had the same time this time out. But yeah, it was definitely enough here to find the starting location.
Yeah, this season, as it was week 1, we didn't do a test event prior to this week. Everybody had the same 3.5 minutes to work on the map and the same order of locations. But from here on out, the locations will be shuffled between each map, so it'll be the same locations, but just different order. And the times will be varied based on how they did in the feature race the previous week. But first week, everybody's on level footing here. Round 2 saw us near a cemetery. But again, near some of the more famous locations in the kind of northeastern part of the city here.
Yeah, so round 2, if you looked sort of towards the west, you could see sort of some of the architecture and statues in the cemetery, which was quite interesting, I thought, to sort of see how large it was. But once you sort of got out of this little park area, there were a few landmarks and major roads which you may have come across. And also, I think there was maybe an underground station or a metro station near the starting location as well, or I think it was a car park. So again, it's all sort of information and points of interest to help you pinpoint where we actually started.
Yeah, I think it was. I thought it was a car park, but maybe I didn't see a station. That's what I was thinking. So yeah, I think it was an underground parking center. Yeah. Which was pretty interesting. Could definitely help you out in pinpointing in that one. But the nice thing about Buenos Aires, it is a South American city, a large capital, but it is very well labeled. So really, once you're able to find the little district you're in and whatnot, the streets themselves don't prove to be too big of a challenge for that. Round 3 saw us a little bit more central in the city, at least towards the kind of residential central area. On some just small streets, again, just having to work your way to a few bigger streets and then work your way backwards, Ben.
Yeah, so round 3 had some quite interesting architecture, which, if I'm honest, was the main reason why I chose this location. Just, seeing the decorative buildings on the side made me think it was quite interesting. And also, I believe on the left was a bit of Hebrew maybe on one of the buildings, which maybe you spotted, maybe you didn't. But again, it's a nice little niche bit of niche thing to see in Argentina, which you wouldn't really expect to see.
No, it was really nice. I think it helped me pinpoint. It was some kind of Jewish community center or something like that, if I remember correctly. But it was helpful for pinpointing because it does show up on the map. So very nice. Round 4 saw us near a pretty major park, a little bit further west in the city, but again, close to a couple major roads that weren't too hard to get to. And then, again, work your way backwards, pretty straightforward again. The street name wasn't too hard to find. The tricky thing for me here, though, was that there are lots of parks in that kind of western part of the city. And I just couldn't figure out which one exactly matched for some reason. But
like I say, a lot of parks, a lot of green spaces in Buenos Aires. So it's just a case of finding out which park we're actually near. And I think for some people, they may have struggled sort of knowing where the boundaries of the map were. I did try sort of to explain how far out the map went, but for some people, they may have not have expected the map to extend out this far, which may have sort of limited their search to near the city centre.
Yeah, the nice thing about Google Maps is most of the actual cities themselves do have their border. Like in Google Maps here for Buenos Aires, it has Buenos Aires and then Buenos Aires province border
Yep.
that runs around the city. So it does help and it gives you a pretty good indication of where the city might be. I didn't until I sad to say until I realized that it was looking a little bit too far away, and I didn't guess in a bad place, but it did eat up some time when I didn't really quite realize where that border was, and then I was scrambling with a little bit time left. So definitely
Yep,
worth
definitely.
checking out ahead of time. Is my advice for that. Yeah, round five though, we were near the Spanish embassy, pretty much might want to call the downtown financial district of Buenos Aires near the coast.
Yeah, this area of Buenos Aires definitely feels more sort of developed than the other areas we had. There's a few skyscrapers, a few well-known businesses, well-known companies who have offices around here. I think if you travelled to the east, you did manage to reach the coastline eventually. Also, Ali's definitely a section of water, which would have helped maybe you to realise that we weren't too far inland, which would have helped you narrow down the search area a bit. But yeah, apart from that, sort of, it's just a case of knowing where the main financial and business district of Buenos Aires is, and if you knew that, then you would sort of know the region and area where to look.
Very nice. Well, let's see how it represents it in the sprint race. Moist Flubber and Boxa keep their 1-2 at the top of the table, earning their teams lots of points. Blubber picking up 50 points by topping the charts on both of these occasions. Laban Greb flying down to 9th. Carp and Alexander, two Americans, picking up 3rd and 4th place there. Towards the other end, very bad day for Octane, me, and Steeless Nick towards the very bottom, and Wickholm Calamity joining us, as well as Slovak Goldie and Max. Just not our week in Argentina for sure. These people were towards the bottom in the feature race as well. A pretty rough start, but it's only week 1. We still got 9 weeks to go, so pick ourselves up and continue from there for that. But yeah, any comments on the sprint race results?
Yeah, so just echoing the point that I made with the feature race, it's the new drivers who appear to be stealing the show at this early stage. Again, we have Moist Flubber and Boxer taking up positions 1 and 2. And then, yeah, obviously, Carp and Xander, both new players again, taking up positions 3 and 4. Obviously, there were 6 racers who scored 25,000 points. So it could have gone either way with regards to what position these guys finished in. But yeah, it was definitely a very close race. And yeah, interesting to see how this will play out with the new racers as opposed to the existing racers.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a look exactly how these racers did and the points they picked up for their teams in the first week. Of course, with that 1-2 finish in both the races, Moist Flubber and Boxa top the charts with Laban Greb, Carp, Very Fishy Bear rounding out that top 5. A very, very good day for Chariot, 2 drivers in the top 5, as well as Cape, taking 3rd and 4th back to back with them. At the other end of it, about half the field still to pick up any points. Calamity and 16th, all the way down to me at the bottom there. Which I think is more just to do with no, not really. I thought it was alphabetical and 0 points, but not really. With that, yeah. But other than that, a splattering of points throughout most of the other drivers. But again, only 1 week for that one. Those 2 points you see for Most Flubber is he had the bonus points, right? I believe correctly, Ben.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
So obviously, Moist Flubber was the only racer to score 25,000 points in the feature race, and as a result of this, got the 2 points for getting the fastest 25,000 points as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they have an extra 2 points on what you would expect to see.
Yeah, so we won't spend too much time on these standings. It is only the first week. There are still, like you can see, 52 points or so up for grabs every week, which means even the drivers with no points could steal the show next week and be in first place. So a lot can happen at this stage, but a very good start to the competition for Chariot and Cape Motorsport, a new team to the field in this one. And as we take a look exactly at those constructor standings, yeah, of course, Chariot Nordhagen also with Box's good performance up there, taking out Cape for 2nd place, Scantrum and Orient rounding out that top 5. Lancaster, Octane, yet to pick up any points. FGT only on 4. Bamberg and Katsurivatsa had 8 towards the bottom half. Yeah, I mean, kind of very early predictions, but since we got you here, Ben, any kind of thing any team you're watching out for during this season?
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see how Oberhausen do. Obviously, we've got last year's winner closed, and again, I think I can't quite remember who he closed teammate is this season.
Timmy, just like last season, worked out nice.
Is it is it Simi?
Yep.
I thought Simi was in Lancaster this year.
No, he's in. Oh, maybe did I get it wrong?
Is Simi a few teething problems? Obviously,
No,
new
he is.
season.
He is in
We're
Lancaster.
still
Sorry. M the
so
baseman. M the
M the
baseman
baseman.
is
So
in.
yeah, closed
There we
obviously
go.
has an experienced teammate alongside him, which will be interesting to see how they get on this season. Could definitely be challenging at the top again. And because we've mentioned Simi, obviously he wasn't able to compete this week, but I expect Simi and his teammate Wakelock to really start putting in some strong performances from next week onwards. And yeah, just to see, it will be interesting to see how they manage to make up the points which they may have lost this week by not having Simi compete.
Definitely.
And
Yeah, Wakelock
also
picking up a podium last season, so he's definitely capable of helping his teammate out here. So that'll probably hopefully give a good boost to Lancaster somewhere along the season here.
And we'll all be keeping an eye on the two new teams as well, so Orient Racing and Cape Motorsport. Obviously, both teams made up of two new drivers, so we've not really got any Formula G pedigree to compare these drivers to. But it'll be interesting to see how they get on. We've seen strong performances from Xander, Labangreb, and yeah, all the new drivers this week, really. So yeah, definitely be interesting to see how these two new teams get on.
Yeah, definitely interesting indeed. We look forward to that for ourselves as we head into week 2, or race 2, and next week we are in France. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the map name, but we just a more metropolitan and kind of not super rural French map with over 500,000 locations. Average score of 19,933. That's very, very good for a French map, which means that we should be seeing quite a few 25Ks here. Been played almost 500,000 times. I think this is like the most popular map in the French community. Is that right, Ben? Something like that.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah, so I think the map has been made by a member of the French community, and they use it for maybe speed runs, I think. So yeah, it's definitely a very popular map. Just comparing it to last season when we used Mapper's map, I don't believe this map includes the Reunion Island, which will sort of make the points distribution a bit narrower, with less margin for error when pinpointing. So yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see how well racers get on. And yeah, I'm expecting some high scores next week.
Yeah, definitely. And with our sprint race in one of the most famous cities in the world, Paris, I would definitely expect quite a few 25Ks here as well, given how well known the city is compared to something like Buenos Aires or in week 3 in Seoul. So a lot of famous landmarks that are known throughout the world, even by people who have never been there. So that could prove a really interesting challenge where it could come down to only a few meters separating the top couple places, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Paris is obviously a fairly well spread out city with quite a different array of locations which we could see. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of points of interest in Paris and things to help with pinpointing. So it should maybe be a bit easier than Buenos Aires.
Definitely very interesting indeed. And we will see you all there in France next week. Take care.